Good day, everyone. So as we're slowly going back to face-to-face classes, how do we ensure that only vaccinated people are allowed within the premises of the school? And as a student myself, I can always see myself losing my vaccination card. So the solution that we're going to present today is putting both of these things together. So listen to our idea, and I hope you learned something today.
The world has changed dramatically in all areas during the last 2 years. This is mostly due to the outbreak of COVID-19, one of the deadliest pandemics of the century. It has resulted in the loss of livelihood as a result of viral protection efforts. It is a highly contagious disease. It has prompted a number of localities to take extraordinary measures, including lockdowns and quarantines. To reduce local transmission, health protocols and practices such as community quarantines, online classes, and work from home arrangements have been implemented by various businesses, facilities, and companies. Currently, the threat of COVID-19 to people is still present, but is now lowering down, unlike in the past 2 years. Some schools are finally going back to the traditional face-to-face classes, USC being one of them. So, as computer engineering students of the University of San Carlos, we have come up with an idea of how to ensure that only vaccinated people are allowed in USC premises during face-to-face classes. That way, we could minimize the transmission of COVID-19 whilst having the traditional face-to-face classes.
In order to make sure that the project is doable in the first place, there are requirements to be done. First, a database of vaccinated students are needed, maybe through a partnership with the government or through manual collection of vaccination statuses. Second is an update to the information stored in the RFID IDs that students and personnel currently hold. Once all of that is finished, implementation can then begin. As a pilot, it can start with updating conditional statements in RFID scanners wherein a false in vaccination status would not grant entry as this person scans their RFID. Once proven to be successful, the project can be scaled up wherein data is interconnected with each other. Medical records will be digitized like temperature checks prior to entering the premises, which can be stored again in a database in order to check for suspicion of COVID. This project, though, demands for automation so that it ensures that records cannot be doctored or altered. Apart from that, an interactive UI can also be developed where a client can view the records through a secure web application.
The purpose of this proposal is to create a COVID-free and safe environment in schools, strengthen the security by preventing any false vaccination cards, restricts non-vaccinated students and personnel from entering the school to prevent the spreading of the virus, and lastly, collects medical data that is compiled to help detect possible COVID carriers.
The people that can benefit from this are students and personnel and government agencies. So first is the students and personnel. Having RFID vaccination cards tied to their school ID can help the students and personnel have a much safer time at the school campus, as this restricts non-vaccinated people from entering the premise. This lets USC premises a much safer space for students and personnel, as they would feel more comfortable working knowing that the school is much safer. This also helps having medical records digitized for people that may conduct investigation on changes prior to entering the campus and its changes across multiple days on a particular student or personnel. It makes it much easier as having digitized records are more convenient nowadays. This also provides efficient collection of data and investigation. Next is government agencies. This benefits the government use for the data collection regarding the efficacy of vaccines. This helps the government agencies for their own research in using the automated data collection from the RFID vaccination card tied to the school ID. It also helps prevent counterfeiting vaccination cards that help the government in enforcing the use of their RFID vaccination cards. This is for having a convenient authentication of their vaccination cards. This benefits the school for abiding the law and government agencies for having an alternative to efficiently enforce the use of RFID vaccination cards.
The target demographic or scope of this proposal are all campuses in the University of San Carlos, students, faculty, and personnel, male and female of all ages, all must be vaccinated, and lastly, must be willing or permitted by an immediate family member to attend face-to-face classes or be in a face-to-face setting.
With the current COVID pandemic situation, student vaccination status plays significant role in order to justify the welfare of a certain student and of the school as overall. We find that vaccination cards tied to school ID is feasible and acceptable for individual identification, but problems implementing the hardware and software lead to a high failure rate. Knowledge for creating computer programs, creating database, and database management are very much required. The cost would also be low since only computer programs, software, and hardware are mostly needed in implementing this solution. Thank you. That's all.